Hello, my lovelies. It is day 9 of 25 songs sung for Christmas, but I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I wanted to share with you something that is a poem by Tom Hegg called A Cup of Christmas Tea. And I have my little sweet and spicy tea here, all set to go. And lovely that it is. I actually love this Good Earth, caffeine-free original, sweet and spicy herbal tea. The bang. Anywho, I'm going to read this, and I hope that you could follow along. If you don't have time to listen right now all the way, come back and listen to it. This is such a beautiful poem about what's most important about our time that we spend in Christmas. A Cup of Christmas Tea by Tom Hegg. The log was in the fire, all spiced and set to burn. At last the yearly Christmas race was in the clubhouse turn. The cards were in the mail, all the gifts beneath the tree, in 30 days reprieve, till Visa could catch up with me. The smug satisfaction seeing the order of the day, something still was nagging me and would not go away. A week before, I got a letter from my old great aunt. It read, "Of course, I'll understand completely if you can't, but if you find you have some time, how wonderful if we could have a little chat and share a cup of Christmas tea." She had a mild stroke that year, which crippled her left side, though housebound now, my folks had said it hadn't hurt her pride. They said she'd love to see you, what a nice thing it would be for you to go and maybe have a cup of Christmas tea. But boy, I didn't want to go. Oh, what a bitter pill, to see an old relation and how far she'd gone downhill. I remembered her as vigorous, as funny and as bright. I remembered Christmas Eve when she regaled us half the night. I didn't want to risk it all. I didn't want the pain. I didn't need to be depressed. I didn't need the strain. And what about my brother? Why not him? She's his aunt too. I thought I had it justified. But then before I knew, the reasons not to go I so painstakingly had built were cracking wide and crumbling in an acid rain of guilt. I put on boots and gloves and cap, Shane stinging every pore, and armed with squeegee, sand, and map, I went out my front door. I drove in from the suburbs to the older part of town. The pastels of the newer homes gave way to gray and brown. I had that disembodied feeling as the car pulled up and stopped before the wooden house that held the Christmas cup. How I got up to her door, I really couldn't tell. I watched my hand raise up and pressed the button and the bell. I waited, aided by my nervous rocking to and fro, and just as I was thinking I should turn around and go, I heard the rattle of the china in the hutch against the wall, the triple beat of 2 feet, and a crutch came down the hall. The click of the door latch and sliding of the bolt, and a little swollen struggle popped it open with a jolt. She stood there pale and tiny, looking fragile as an egg. I forced myself from staring at the brace that held her leg, and though her thick bifocals seemed to crack and spread her eyes, their milky and refracted depths lit up with young surprise. "Come in! Come in!" She laughed the word. She took me by the hand, and all my fears dissolved away as if by her command. We went inside, and then before I knew how to react, before my eyes and ears and nose was Christmas past, alive, intact. The scent of candied oranges, of cinnamon and pine, the antique wooden soldiers in their military line, the porcelain nativity I'd always loved so much, the Dresden and the crystal I'd been told I mustn't touch. My spirit fairly bolted like a child of class and danced among the ornaments of calico and glass. Like magic I was 6 again, deep in a Christmas spell, steeped in the million memories the boy inside knew well. And here among old Christmas cards, so lovingly displayed, a special place of honor for the ones we kids had made. And there beside her rocking chair, the center of it all, my great aunt stood and said how nice it was I'd come to call. I sat and I rattled on about the weather and the flu. She listened very patiently, then smiled and said, "What's new?" Thoughts and words began to flow. I started making sense. I lost the phony breeziness I use when I get tense. She was still passionately interested in everything I did. She was positive, encouraging, just like when I was a kid. Simple generalities still sent her into fits. She demanded the specifics, the particulars, the bits. We talked about the limitations that she'd had to face. She spoke with utter candor and with humor and good grace. Then, defying the reality of crutch and straightened knee, of wings of hospitality, she flew to brew the tea. I sat alone with feelings that I hadn't felt in years. I looked around at Christmas through a thick, hot blur of tears. And the candles and the holly she'd arranged on every shelf, the impossibly good cookies she still somehow baked herself, and these rich and tactile memories became quite pale and thin when measured by the Christmas my great aunt kept deep within. Her body halved and nearly spent, but my great aunt was whole. I saw a Christmas miracle, the triumph of a soul. The triple beat of 2 feet in a crutch came down the hall, the rattle of the china in the hutch against the wall. She poured 2 cups, she smiled, and then she handed one to me, and then we settled back and had a cup of Christmas tea. Christmas tea. Take a moment this year to go and visit someone that you know loves you and doesn't have someone that's spending time with them or able to see them. And take a moment to sit down with them. Give them your time. It's the most beautiful, precious gift you can give to anyone. And spend a minute. Take a moment to take time to ask them about themselves and let them take their time to really let that marinate. It means so much to people. It will be the greatest gift that you can give to anyone this Christmas season is your time. So go, and whether it is that metaphor of Christmas tea, you sit down and have a sip with somebody that loves you and that misses you. Give them your time. It's the most precious thing you can do. I love ya. I'm grateful for this Christmas time that we can reflect, but also for the gifts that we can give to celebrate this time of year. Mwah!